y'all. How's everyone doing? Enjoying Austin so far? Enjoying the warm weather if you're coming from New York like I am, where it was quite cold. Well, hello, I'm Carly Riley. I'm the host of Overpriced JPEGs. Very excited to be hosting this Power of Community panel. We could not have two better people up here for this. Joining me, we have Farokh, founder of Rug Radio. Wait, we just did this, didn't we? I don't have to intro. Oh, shit, sorry.
I like the reintroduction, though.
Nick, co-founder of MNTGE. You guys are both, I'm interested in talking to you about community because you both come from community building backgrounds in your own way. Nick, you in the music industry, and maybe give folks a sense of what you did in music for folks who don't know. Farokh, you were a huge community builder in Web2 platforms and on social media platforms. I'm really curious what y'all feel like is the biggest difference building community in a Web3 environment from what it was like building on traditional social media or in the industry as you guys did. Maybe Nick, start with you and talk a little bit about your background.
Yeah, no, thank you for having me. So my background is I started actually initially as a lawyer, but moved into the music industry, was working in talent management, a lot of musicians, and most notably worked with a emerging artist by the name of Snoop Dogg that you all may hear of one day. So I spent a lot of time looking at branding endorsement deals for artists and looking at how to build businesses outside of music. And a lot of that really was about community building. And I think more recently, around 2021, I saw the Web3 movement happening and got super excited about it and moved aggressively into Web3. And whether that was working with artists to do their personal branding and their drops, or to build my own project called MNTGE, which we started about a year ago, and we've been building towards pretty aggressively. So that's my background. I think the difference that I've seen between Web 2 community building and Web 3 community building is a sense that you now have to, with Web 3, you have to build something knowing that community is going to be there for a long time. Whereas I think in the sort of traditional community building in, say, music or sort of talent, it was about how do we get as much hype as possible, create as much kind of pandemonium, and sell product, or and then how do we, and then after that, you kind of move on to your next project. Now you're building long-term fans, but you're not building a community that actually has a say in what you're doing, or talking to them on a daily basis.
It does feel more extractive from that standpoint, sir, like in the old world?
It felt more what?
Extractive?
I don't know if it's extractive. It just felt more like one and done. Like, we got to get this out and then we move on. And now it's like, as we're building with this community in mind, we're like, people are talking to us on a daily basis in Discord groups or on Twitter. They're very active. They want to see things that are benefiting them, as opposed to, hey, you bought an album or you bought tickets to a concert or you bought, a merch item. They basically, you can kind of do that. They're happy and you move on. Now you're like, you sold the, I think with the Web3 stuff we've been doing, we're selling a dream, and we're selling, they've financially invested in us to some degree. So we have to keep committing and keep delivering, or else they feel let down.
Farokh, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, perfect segue from that is that I think the core difference between building community in Web 2 versus Web 3 is that in Web 2, everybody's like a consumer, and then Web 3 is an actual community. My background came in from building across different social platforms. So I started off on Tumblr when I was 15 years old, or Facebook early, like when I was 12 or whatever. I'm 17 now, I'm just kidding. But it's, no, but it's then through Instagram, where I built a network of over, 10, 15 million followers across multiple platforms within 2 years. And so building community was always something that was on my mind. Like, how do I thought it was really interesting how from the tip of my thumbs on this iPhone, right, from a very young age, you could build this huge amount of people would gather around a certain topic, regardless of their religious or spiritual beliefs, or where they're from. It's like, oh wow, these people want to all gather and talk about luxury or travel or whatever it is, right? So I started this niche, and obviously with that came my first boutique media company. And I started early on, was 18 years old-ish. But when I got into Web3, which was early February 2021, and around the same time I actually met Nick, which is great, so a full circle moment on the stage today, is when I realized the power of it. and how I can now finally, as a community builder, have a place in this space, in this world, in this realm, Web3, whatever you want to call it. Well, I can be empowered as a community builder, as a creator myself, but I can also empower others through this power of this incredible technology, which is the blockchain, right? So that's kind of how it all started. And then months later, you know, scratched my head a little bit with some friends on stage on a Twitter space. I'm like, wow, like, you're telling me we can build a decentralized Web3 media brand, and I'm sure we're gonna get to that, and empower this community. So for me, like, the biggest like, takeaway from the last year and a half, 15, 16 months building Rug Radio, and the last over 2 years being in the space specifically, but again, 12 years actually building community across different platforms, is really the big jump from like consumer to community, which is extremely different.
Spell that out a little bit when you say like, suddenly because of blockchain, you could empower others in a way that you couldn't do. Like, really explain why, like what fundamentally about blockchain means you can empower somebody in your community in a way you couldn't on Reddit.
I mean, for me, like, something I'm very bullish on is DAOs, right? So decentralized autonomous organizations, which is the way the Rug Radio, so Rug DAO is built fully. There's no LLC, there's no Inc. with my name on it. Like, it's really like a full-blown like Cayman Foundation. And the beautiful thing is that I can actually have the people, so y'all, or the people in the audience, or our holders, or our community, actually take part in the decision-making, take part in what we're doing next, agree or disagree with the decisions I, as the founder, want to make with regards to where I want to take the brand. Like, for example, small example that's actually huge, for me to be able to even spend money every 6 months, I have to put a proposal through our DAO in order with a full long-range plan. I mean, Loxley, our co-CEO, is there, Mike Kriak's there, a lot of our advisors, and a lot of our participants are in the audience. We work on this for weeks, and we present to the DAO, and then DAO actually has to approve or disapprove it and say, yes, it's like a vote of trust almost, a vote of confidence for me to be able to go out there and keep building the brand. And it's cool because every step of the way, like right now, a voting just ended yesterday, which was to have small community grants. So we can actually pay people in ETH or USDC for them to build on top of our network, so the Rug DAO, and to empower them to do so. Well, I don't have time, right? There's only 24 hours in the day, and I have a 15-person team to manage, right? So they can be empowered to build so. So that's the biggest difference for me when I say on-chain, is because it's so much bigger than just NFTs. Those NFTs is the representation of it, and this ownership, this token, it represents your stake in it. By stake, I don't mean like actual stake in the brand and the company. I mean like a stake, like an emotional, any sort of stake, right?
Don't come for us, Gary Gensler.
Exactly, yeah, exactly. Yeah, please. I mean, he's probably listening. But in case of, but it's, you know, it's mostly about this community. To me, it's really like on-chain, that you can actually have people partake in decision-making and the actual building of it.
I'm going to ask you another question in a second, Nick, and obviously feel free to chime in, but I got one more follow-up for you, Farokh, which is, I think the DAO concept, probably many people here are very interested in it and maybe have been a part of DAOs before. And one of the challenges is getting people to actually participate. How do you approach that? Like, how do you, as Rug Radio, really encourage participation so it actually means something when you go to them and say, hey, vote on this, and it's not, you know, 2 people?
Well, you know, I love the way, of course, the tokenomic structure was built, which, by the way, it was not me. I come from media background and everything, not
Mel,
crypto. So obviously, was definitely surrounded by some great people like Mel and Syndicate DAO, which helped us build, you know, the entire infrastructure behind it. So we have a dual token system, which we have the Rug token, so TRC20 is the Rug DAO token, and the reason we opted for that is intentional governance, right? I could airdrop a token to everyone. We've seen a lot, ENS, Optimism, Ape, whatever. You know, I don't think a lot of people care to vote, right? They're just there, they got their tokens, but the fact that there's a swap within Rug DAO makes people want to vote. So the similar mindset and thought process behind like 1,000 true fans, I'm adopting that within Rug DAO, where I want 1,000 true voters. Because if you get to actually like 1,000 people that show up every single like proposal period to vote on something, that's enough to trigger that network effect to have more people want to partake. We at Rug Radio right now are at like 250 to 300. So every single vote, there's like 3 out of 1,500 DAO holders. So that's a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like our quorums are pretty high. We get 20 to 40% of people come out and vote every time. So they actually care to come and vote. And it's also about constantly educating them and giving them incentives. Because like, what's a DAO? Most of them just nonprofits. What would you come help me build this crazy idea that we have of building the future of decentralized media? Why? When you're not necessarily getting paid for it. You could go do something else yourself, and you got to put food on the table and roof over your head. So it's just incentives. It's by, I think, like the right community incentives, and by really like making people like actually being part of it. Because the community word is easily thrown away, but very few amount of people are actually able to like capture that.
And I think having people vote on things that actually feel meaningful, like if it actually feels like this is core to the future functioning of the business, it means more than a vote for a vote's sake, which I think happened at times during the bull market. It's like, oh, we need to get them involved, so like here's a vote. But people feel that, right? They know when they're being asked to do something kind of for BS reasons. In a similar vein, Nick, I'm curious, bear market times, like how are you, I think give folks a sense of what Mintage is for anybody who maybe doesn't know Mintage, and how are you approaching building community, keeping, that line between community and customer during these times when a lot of people are starting to tune out and have already tuned out of the market?
Yeah, no, it's a challenge, but I'm actually very excited because we launched our project December, I think it was around the 16th, 17th of 2022, and it's the height of the bear. I mean, we launched at like a $1,200 ETH price. So essentially, I had spent 2 years at that point helping other companies, I think, build their I would say their Web3 or their NFT strategies, whether it was helping to advise like the Yugo team or the Sandbox team or celebrities trying to engage. I was bridging Hollywood and blockchain, and I was watching these companies become wildly successful and getting a bit of FOMO and saying to myself like I have to do something now or I'm going to look back, win or fail, if I don't build something right now in this world. And I had missed that sort of hype cycle, and probably it would have been a great revenue generator, but it was actually turned out to be an amazing experience because I had to think about something that I think has long-term feasibility and staying power.
Well,
right?
It reminds me, there's some stat about one of the biggest predictors of whether a company fails or succeeds is what era it was born out of, and companies born in bear markets have a much higher rate of success than companies built or born in bull markets.
Exactly.
So it tests you a lot faster to find that product market fit.
Wildly difficult to launch something when people are getting burned and feeling like the prices are dropping, but we did, and our focus was around, we wanted to think about the fashion category, but more notably we wanted to think about culture. Everything that if I were to define my role across any of these companies that we've worked with, and I think you kind of resonate with this, it's always been about culture. Yeah. It's about like, who in music, I knew the artists we were working with, I knew the demo we were speaking to. And we couldn't just create a product in Web3 that was going to speak to everybody because it's just not who we are. So really, a lot of my brand building has been through music, through hip hop, through streetwear, and I thought about like what's a market that I thought was really interesting, and it turned out that vintage clothing is an enormous market. It's huge and growing at an exponential pace, and there's a lot about vintage clothing that's interesting because you want to have certificates of authenticity, and you want to know that these things are actually, why are they selling at a $1,500 trading value, and they have things like traits and rarity and provenance, which resembled NFTs to a certain degree. So I happened to come across a designer whose name is Sean Witherspoon, who's done some of the most iconic Nikes and has built brands and designs for companies like Porsche. And I brought up the idea of how do we think about vintage and music merchandise. And he got really excited. So we got in the lab and we started by creating digital product. So we were going to create T-shirts and denim, but they're digital, so they go for your avatars. And we sold an NFT, a mint pass, and we created a digital community first. And we got to our 1,000. We sold the 1,000. We sold 1,500 passes, and it kind of reduced to 1,000 owners, which I thought was great. We have that 1,000 core. And from there, we started to create this engaging kind of digital community through and using the tools, whether it's the Discords and things like that. But then today, funny enough, we launched it was very ironic.
It's 3 minutes ago, huh?
I know, I was going to prompt.
6 minutes ago. This guy's minting while he's on stage.
My phone has been blowing up because we just released these pants, these Fruits and Veggies pants. They have a IYK chip underneath the Levi's patch in the back. We so we released 100 pairs. Each are one-on-ones. And anyone who owns our Mint Pass is able to go on, it's market.mntge.io and purchase these pants. Hopefully they sell out very quickly. if they're still available after this thing, I'm gonna start to, I'll disappear. But
I could use a second pair.
but so we're bridging physical product and digital project, but we're trying to do it in a way that's not all about like, this is token enabled, this is technology. We just want to do cool stuff. We want people to go, those are cool jeans, that artist has them, I'm influenced by that. And what we find is that naturally our brand is becoming very Gen Z and millennial, which is really funny because it's not really our Discord. Our Discord is a much different audience. So we're trying to weave this narrative between, hey, onboarding these new, young, youthful consumers who we want to wait in line at pop-ups, but still speak through the digital items to our Discord. So we're weaving this and we're threading this needle as we speak. But it's really exciting. Today's a big day. Today will be a telling day. And it's interesting because we're taking already existing brands like Levi's and Dickies and things like that are already in market, and we're repurposing them and upcycling them. So there's sustainability, it's all different types of things. And this is what Web3 has done for us, has allowed us to create this pretty wacky business model. And I think we'll figure out as we evolve what is our big revenue driver and what is the real thing that's gonna hold our community together.
How core do you think the physical digital connection, and specifically, I don't know if folks don't know IYK, they do an NFC chip, right, that you can put in merch and really in a lot of different things. And
yeah, if you want, after I'll be here, I'll let you rub my patch.
Where is it?
And you can get your chip off
I do take some level of issue with the placement. I feel that way about the 90s.
Awkward.
I mean, G-Money's got it right
I know,
there.
G-Money's literally
He's
right
got it
here.
right there.
It's
It's
just
a little
like
awkward.
pictures of people like tagging G-Money with like, you're like, okay, let's just find another spot for these things. But the hat's better. I like it on the hat. Anyway, how core do you think that this will be to just community building in the future? Like, to me, it's such a no-brainer where musical artists, like anybody who's selling merch, having an NFC tag in all merch, we a part of creating that deeper connection.
Yeah.
Let's speak on that, both of you, and Farokh, you can chime in after too.
I mean, I'll give you a quick answer. I think we started this with QR codes, and I don't think it really...
What?
The QR code years ago. I mean, I think that was the first way and there was that sort of excitement around it. But I just think the chip elevates it. I think the chip gives you a reason to walk up to somebody or to swipe something. It's very experiential, and I think the data that it provides and the fact that those NFTs can be traded via it, and I think it's exciting. The one thing I will say about IYK, what's really cool with Mintage is we're just trying to build a brand. So IYK and 4K, which does vaulting, and we're looking at all those as tool sets. And they're just awesome tool sets, Well,
it's such an interesting way to then connect your fans with one another in a way that adds another dimension to community building that we really don't have in today's world. But even if you saw another Taylor Swift fan, I was just talking to one, right? And you're like, oh, you're a Taylor, you've got the T-shirt on or whatever. Like, it's another level if you're like, oh, I'm gonna tap and get your POAP, and now we're linked in this way. Like, it feels different. Go ahead, your thoughts, Farokh.
So you're asking how important the core key is to building
riff
a brand?
on this idea if you have any thoughts around like merch and sort of the future of the like NFC tags in like future marketing, community building.
I don't know per se, but we gotta check. Are you sold out or what?
No, I'm doing it.
No, I love that. Look, we're not too involved in the whole NFC tags and the fashion side of things at Rock Radio, but it's something that fascinates me and that I'm personally passionate about. Of course, like I had received the jeans last week, and I was really hyped to have gotten them, and I forgot about the tag at first. I was like, yo, dope jeans. Like, I tried them on. I'm like, damn, like I can wear them on my sneakers. But then I realized when I opened the little card saying, hey, like check the back tag. So I went and checked it, and then I got the whole, like, of course, a digital wearable. And I was like, that's cool, because whether I want to partake in this metaverse, whatever the form of metaverse we're going to be partaking in the future is or whatnot, I'm going to have them there, but also this is the proof of authenticity. These are my jeans, right? These are the ones that I actually own, and they're Sean Wotherspoon. So they're like, I'm a big sneakerhead, right? So it's like, there's a big thing about having shoes from a certain person, designer, whatever, and proving that they're real. So I love that, but I like what G-Money's doing a lot because he's using these POAPs to network within people. So each t-shirt has 1,000 NFC tags, right? Like POAPs. So you can come and get the Farokh 90cc t-shirt, and we met. So it's proof of like meeting. It's proof of like building this community. And then like this, like when you look at I remember seeing this graph of like everybody who met around Miami Art Basel last year, and it was insane to see how you can build this community and tie them together. And so that's what I find really fascinating. Like similarly for us, we're trying to build in a certain way through our NFTs are ERC 721Ms, like fully composable on chain, right? Which means that one day we're gonna be able to better, through the tech we're building, track what content we can cater better to and what you actually wanna listen to most, which creators you like better, and how these creators can then build better community with their listeners. Because like we have, let's say, 40 shows now on the Rock Radio Network, right? 70 creators. Not everybody wants to listen to my show. maybe not everyone was saying it's that show or that creator, but if I can find a way to improve the community that these creators individually are building, then they can build a better core audience and grow bigger like that. I think it's much better to have a very small fan base that actually care, that want to rock the jeans, that want to listen to the show, that want to go in a conference. You know, they're going to talk about you, right? Rather than have this entire audience that doesn't really care, right? Which is the huge difference between the consumer and the community, right? Which consumer is great. You need them, especially if you want to run a business. I mean, you know that better than I do. But it's really in this space I feel there's something different. And I know the word gets thrown around a lot, like a lot of different words. But if you actually break it down and care for it, you're going to see that this community will be ride or die with you and will bring you, like, will really help you, like, build outside of our little Web3 echo chamber. Because there's a lot of brands out there in Web2. There's a lot of people doing jeans, a lot of people doing media, a lot of people doing whatever the hell we're all trying to build as founders in this space. So without this core community, we're actually probably never going to be able to, like, break outside of that mold.
Yeah. I'll say one other thing to point that I think is interesting is that you had a big social presence. Like, you built social media brands before you got into Web3. I came from an agency world, and artist management was all social. I think one of the things that I've seen Rug Radio do very well, and one of the things that we've tried to do very well, is to be speaking through social outside of just Twitter, and having really good, consistent content, and using pretty traditional marketing tools, whether it's, you know, like great visuals or behind the scenes video content, and having seen now what Rug Radio's done on Instagram with the constant newsreel, and using sort of like probably a lot of the Web2 experience you've had it's been amazing. So I think one thing that I would say about community for you and I specifically, and less so than I think a lot of core big NFT communities, it's really been about social marketing, right?
I just totally forgot my question because I'm looking at that clock. I guess we only have 2 minutes left. This doesn't go till 3:20. Okay.
Plenty of time.
Okay, no, it's great. So my final question is advice for folks out there. I imagine maybe there's folks sitting in this audience who are here because they want to know how to build their community better, or are interested in getting involved in building an NFT project, whatever it might be. So advice, but I also want to tag on to the advice bit, how you've thought about the lifetiminess of this. I mean, your first answer was, okay, doing consumer Web2 stuff, it felt like more one and done, and this is like a little bit more forever feeling. How much did you think about that going into this? And did that ever make you nervous that you feel like you have now this group of people that you are accountable for, and like, can you pivot, or will people get mad and call it a rug? Or how do you think about that? Or if you just want to give advice broadly?
No, I think I can answer both with one answer. Is like,
love it.
Don't take this on unless you really, 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 really want to do it. I think I said it. I saw a lot of people around me build projects and create massive amounts of revenue. But now in this bear market, they're struggling, and they're struggling to find market fit, and they're dealing with a very sort of, I wouldn't say angry mob, but people who want to see a return on the money they invested in those projects, or they bought those projects for. And everybody told me, hey, like, that first launch is fun, but it's not really the launch. It comes after the launch. And that's you're immediately answerable to a big community of people, and they come and they go because they can trade in, they can trade out, they can buy in, they can buy out. And, you know, some people can be really supportive, and I love seeing the supportive community we're building. But I mean, you know, even today, as we drop this first physical product, I mean, it's filled with, you probably don't have enough sizes, and, you know, why are those have fruits on them? You know what I mean? They're like, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to give you something, you know? So you gotta really wanna do it. You gotta love it. You make sure the product market fit is something you really wanna dedicate yourself to. I chose something that I really like, which is, you know, I think a hybrid of culture, music, and fashion, and I'm willing to stick it out. And hopefully we succeed at the end of the day.
This is great advice, by the way. I love that. I think, whoa.
Okay. I know, but can we have 30 more seconds for Farokh's
30 more seconds, 30 more seconds.
Go, Farokh.
I think it's really down to one word. It's care, right? A lot of people, first of all, don't take it on unless you're gonna go all in, what Nick just said, but the other word is care. Just caring for people and acknowledging the people in your community can go such a long way. And that's what a lot of people fail to do in this space. Is they come in and think building community is like being active on Twitter Spaces or tweeting every day. No, that's not what people want. Yes, you have to be active, but what people just really freaking want, your holders want, is you to care and to acknowledge them. So a little bit of care, and actually pretty much in your personal life, I'm sure too, but I'm no doctor, goes a very long way. And that's what I've seen with our holders, just sometimes hopping on the Discord. Maybe if someone's not happy, just explain to them, talking to them, taking them through your process, because not everybody's you. Because if they were you, they would be sitting in your seat right here on the stage. But just acknowledge the fact that you care for them and you're actually building not only with them, but for them can take you a very long way.
Thank you all so much. Thank you, Sam. Thanks
Thanks
to Fences
everybody.
for the extra
Shout out
time.
to Bobby Hundreds. I got your text.
Did you sell out?